I used to watch could you turn my microphone up a little bit? I want to shout at people and they won't be able to hear me if it's not up. Just a little bit, that's great, thank you very much. So I used to watch a while back ago something called Time Team. I don't know if anybody remembers Time Team. It was a program on TV where archaeologists would dig up sites and you'd see what they were finding. And I quite enjoyed watching archaeological programs. And every now and again there'd be, I'd watch programs about the digging up of grave sites, ancient grave sites. And there seems to be something very, very familiar or common with these grave sites, that these ancient peoples, when they were buried, often would be buried not just in their clothes, but they would have grave goods. They would have goods put in the grave with them. So if there was a warrior, he'd be shield and sword and some treasures. And if it was a king like Sutton Hoo in England, a warship, buried in the warship with lots of treasures and golds. And you've got, of course, the Egyptian pharaohs who were buried in their pyramids, and they would have immense treasures with them. And the idea is that you would be buried with these things so that you could have them in the next life. You'd be buried with all these treasures so that when you got to the next life, you'd have your chariot and your warship and your servants whom you killed and took with you into the next life. They'd be there with you. But of course, we know that that's actually not what happens. And this is what Jesus is challenging us with, that when we die, everything that we have here, that we've collected over the years, that stays here. We do not take it with us. And so it's very interesting that we've got here in today's readings. It's actually very rare we have all three readings that have the same themes. Normally the first reading and the gospel match. When you listen to the first reading and the gospel, there's a connection. And the second reading from the New Testament is usually on some completely different theme. But this week, actually, this Sunday, that's not the case. Amazing. So we have the Ecclesiastes, the preacher saying, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Now, when he's saying vanity, he's not talking about, you see these vain people that like looking at themselves in the mirror, or they're just worried about their clothes and how they look and what their nails are like and all of this sort of stuff and their shoes. That's not the vanity he's talking about. In this case, vanity, the word hebel in Hebrew, means vapor or mist or breath. It's nothing. Nothing. It's ephemeral, passing, something that just disappears. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Everything passes. Nothing is forever. It all disappears. And so he has the man who labors wisely, skillfully, successfully, and leaves all that to someone who has not toiled at all. How unjust is that? All is vanity. That's the first reading. Working and then leaving everything you've worked for to somebody else who's not whom you don't know. And then in the gospel, Jesus saying in the parable to the rich man in the parable, and the demand will be made for your life, your soul, and this hoard of yours, whose will it be then? Everything you've collected, what will happen to it? You're not taking it with you. And then in St. Paul, he tells us that you must look for the things in heaven. So Paul directs us to the end goal. What is it all about? Look for the things in heaven. Let your thoughts be on the things that are in heaven. You must kill everything that in you that belongs only to earthly life. And he makes a list, and Jesus also makes a list of the things that belong to earthly life, the things that we can get caught up with. So this man who comes to Jesus in the first place has got caught up in money. Tell my brother to give me the inheritance that is my due. Actually, he doesn't even say that my inheritance that is his due, right? Tell my brother to give me a share of our inheritance. So he's asking for a share. Is he due a share? Don't know. But he's asking for that share. And Jesus after his, like, who made me your judge or arbiter, says, be on your guard against avarice. Other translation, greed. And the word in Hebrew there, pleonexia, I think it is. It's not because I know this from when I studied Greek, it's because I read it in a book when I was preparing my homily. That's where I get these things from. So in the Greek, the word pleonexia speaks about an over, if I had a good memory, that would be even better. So it's about a desire, an over-desire for things that's not your due. So you want more than is your due, more than is necessary. And he says, be on your guard against this. So we have in Ecclesiastes, working for things that you'll just have to let go of and somebody else will be given to you, the things that you work for in life. Here, Jesus, the same thing will happen. And he tells us to be against our guard against avarice of any kind, because man's life is not made secure by these things. And so the man in the parable thinks his life is secure. He's made his life secure because he has gathered all these things to himself. I now have lots of crops, I have lots of grains, I have big barns, I will store all my goods, I will have them all. Now I have everything. My life is now secure. Because my life is secure, I no longer have to work. I have everything I need, more than I need. And so he focuses on, St. Paul says, you must kill everything in you that belongs only to earthly life. And so he makes a list. Jesus, in this parable, makes a list of these things that this man starts to focus on, the things of earthly life. He says, my soul, he's speaking to myself, my soul, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years to come. Take things easy. Here the list begins. Take things easy. You don't need to work anymore. So greed leads to sloth. I actually don't need to worry anymore. I can sit back and relax. Eat, drink, have a good time. Eat, drink, and be merry. What's the phrase? There's a famous phrase, eat and drink because tomorrow, and be merry because tomorrow we die, or something like that. But basically, it's have a party. Eat as much as you want, drink as much as you want, have a good time, and gluttony follows. Sloth, gluttony, and greed. All these vices going together, one on top of the other. And pride, egoism, it's all there. The man, it's about me, my food, my crops, my property, what I have, and what I'm going to do with my stuff for me. And then God says, fool, idiot. This very night a demand will be made for your soul. This hoard of yours, whose will it be then? Whose will it be then? Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. You've built this stuff up, and you cannot take it with you. Your life is not secure by your possessions and by your money. That does not secure our life. It ends. And so Jesus ends with the final line of his text. What's it all about then? So then, I am going blind, Lord have mercy. So it is when a man stores up treasure for himself in place of making himself rich in the sight of God. We have possessions. We need to gain money, food. We need to work for these things. These are good things for us. As human beings, we are created to work. As parents, we have to look after our children, to gain enough to look after our families, to make sure they are okay. But the important thing is getting things in perspective. You and I are not made, let me put this another way. We are made to work, but we are made more importantly, for a relationship with God. Work is part of what we do. It's a good thing. It enables us to be more human. But work is not above God. It's getting things in perspective. So we work for our families. Money is not our God, because money helps us with things, but we can't take us with us. And so there is, and it's the same with everything else. Okay, so it's who is our God? Who is our God? The Lord is our God. Money should not be our God. Food should not be our God. Possessions should not be our God. People should not be our God. These things should not be our gods. Who is our God? The Lord should be our God. And so we should be, as St. Paul says, keeping our minds fixed on the things of heaven, on the Lord, preparing ourselves for death. Storing up treasure for yourselves in heaven is another parable that Jesus says we should be doing, storing up treasure. And how do we do that? How do we make ourselves rich in the sight of God? The money stays behind, but money can be used, our possessions can be used to store up treasure in heaven. Where did we get our money from? Where did we get our ability to gather money? Where did we get our gifts and talents to be able to look after our families? At the end of the day, we got them from the Lord. You know, it's not as if, well, I did it all myself, you know. I've worked hard every day of the week. I work 27 hours a day, and I work 9 days a week, and I work 378 days in the year, and I did it all myself. Where did I get the ability to do that? From God. Where did I get my intelligence? From God. Where was I born? Why was I born in a country that enabled me to get these things? That's God's gift. All of it from God. And therefore, everything we have is from Him and should go back to Him. I can't give God physical money because He's a spirit. I can't give Him property. He's spirit. I can't physically see Him and touch Him. Who can I physically see and touch? My neighbor. And so the goods or the good that you and I have received, we have to use for the good of my neighbor. And at the end of the day, what we have is to be used for the good of others. Yes, our family, but also for the good of others. And as we help others in their need for food, clothing, housing, etc., then in that way we are serving God. But, you know, so we're helping people in their need. What is the greatest need that anybody has? The greatest need we have. What do you think that might be? Is it food? Love? Absolutely. And so I'll go further than that. It's love, yes. So it's not food, it's not clothing. These things are necessary. But the greatest need we have is, David has said love. It is God who is love. It is God. You and I are created for God. And so what should we be using our money for? What is the greatest good that we could give somebody else? It's God. It's faith. How can I use what I've been given to give somebody else that greatest gift?